It was 2008 when I first got into Spider-Man. I think it's mostly due to the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films and the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon series. That show and the movies just really introduced me to this world of the character through the lives of both Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Just really just showed me just how you do a superhero soap opera. You give so much drama and story to him that it just impacts you to so much of a degree. My fandom started to pick back up in 2012. This was around the time the Amazing Spider-Man series came out with Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And I have to admit, I kind of preferred Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man a lot more as a character because I feel like while Peter Parker's Spider-Man from Tobey Maguire was still pretty accurate as Spider-Man and Peter Parker, there was kind of a blank slate to his personality that, while I would admit it might seem like a bit of a con, but I think as a kid and even as an adult, it's just still easier to fantasize about being him, being that version of Spider-Man. And yeah, I think that Peter Parker for Andrew Garfield still has that equality in regard. Pretty much all Spider-Man do. But I feel like that Peter Parker just had a lot more personality. He was quick-witted. He was nervous. He was anxious all the same. But he just really helped bring this character to life. And it was kind of shocking to find out that he was such a huge fan of this character. I actually even watched the reveal of him through Comic-Con, I believe, and you just see him gush up about how excited it is to be this character, and that's even one of the things I still love about Andrew's performance. You just tell he loves being this character, and like that's just every Spider-Man fan's dream. But I think the biggest takeaway from that film was just the fact that there's always different interpretations. While I feel like Spectacular Spider-Man was different, and actually I prefer or that version of Peter Parker a lot better, I feel that that version was a lot more rooted in the Raimi films with a lot of its homages and a lot of the story aspects and beats, which definitely helps since the Raimi films are a lot more inspired by like the Stan Lee, Steve Ditko era, and also a little bit of the 70s Jerry Conway stories. But I have to admit, it never really matters to me about just which one is the definitive one. Because there's just gonna be so many different interpretations. And I learned this a lot with just all of the things I obsess over through Batman, through Transformers, through the rest of the Marvel Universe, even. There's just always going to be these different interpretations. And what really helped elevate Spider-Man and why I put him in a high regard of different interpretations a lot more, because not only does artists and writers have the ability to alter Peter Parker in so many different ways that help relate them to so many different generations, you don't even have to have a Spider-Man that is Peter Parker. I got into collecting Spider-Man around the time the Andrew Garfield came out. I have to admit I never really collected a lot of Spider-Man figures, to be honest, mostly because I thought they were pretty expensive back then. But yeah, so I kind of never really bothered with it. Besides, I mostly got my enjoyment through the movies and the TV shows. Was well enough, but yeah. Basically, the closest thing I had to a Spider-Man figure was this thing that I got at the thrift store. Nowadays, I still do collecting. I have to admit, I've amassed quite a lot, and there's still even a lot more, even to this day, and yeah, it's still a fun hobby I do. I really just love collecting Spider-Man. It's just a fun way of escaping, the reality and everything, which the character's always given me, whether in toy form or even in story form, pretty much. Even if it is Murder on My Wallet. One of the things I like about every iteration of Spider-Man is that there's always an artist to each one. Gwen Stacy is a drummer, Miles is a street artist, Peter Parker is a photographer, and I have to admit that has inspired me to a lot of an extent with a lot of my toy photography. I love taking photos of a lot of my Spider-Man action figures and putting them in awesome poses and everything. I also do photography for other stuff too. I do layouts whenever I can. I'll even just go outside and do it. It's just kind of a fun thing I like to do, and I think it even helped serve as more of an inspiration for doing filmmaking. So, another great thing I owe to this character. I feel we all have our own different opinions on Spider-Man and everything, and hey, if you're respectful about it, then more power to you. Whatever wild, insane idea you believe Spider-Man, and whichever way he inspires you, whichever version of Spider-Man you love, I give nothing but respect and salute. Me personally, though, I just love comparing and contrasting all these different versions that we see throughout all the films, the movies, the video games, the comics. All I'm trying to say is that for me, I'm just here for the ride. Now and forever. Open to make any ideas I have of my own on the way.